I told him, I said, you know,
Just can't do that.
I think if we'd have had a little more contact together, we'd have been great friends, but.
He likes working for the cemetery, he likes working for Highlands.
He doesn't like the way they score things either.
Yeah. There's
Okay.
Mike.
Here's my
All
phone.
right, so I'm gonna cue you.
Hmm?
There's Mike.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
okay. Stand by for a second. Are you ready, Joe?
No, we wait, there's about a 30-second delay on the box cast, so we're gonna
Okay.
usually wait till
You
7:01.
got 30 seconds, who's gonna wait?
It seems funny. Order.
You're live.
There's the picture.
Crazy.
There's Mike.
All right, welcome to City Hall in the council meeting, common council meeting, March 1st. Good to be into March. We will open the meeting with Diane giving the invocation. Councilor Quantz.
Tonight, as we celebrate the past year and look forward to ongoing growth, we pause a moment to give thanks for the citizens of Warsaw, for the people who continue to show up to work every day and do their part to keep us going, for the many service groups who saw needs and stepped up and said, yes, we can help there, for the people who risked illness and death to supply our basic needs and care for us. A community is no better than the people who live and work here, and we recognize how truly blessed we are to call each one a friend and a neighbor. May we all continue to do our part as we work to recover and move forward together. Amen.
All right, thank you, Diane. We'll all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. I think before we get started, I would like the minutes to reflect that we have 5 council members present: Councilor Quantz, Frush, Finch, Wilhite, and Dobbins, and Councilman Clondaris is joining us virtually. So we will do roll call votes tonight. So a little bit different. We're going to start the meeting tonight with the State of the City address. So I think we're ready to get going. Are you all ready to go? All right. Good evening from City Hall and welcome. It is an honor and a privilege to stand before you tonight. Preparing for this year's State of the City address has understandably been much different than in the past. This year, the usual questions, where have we been and where are we going, require a little closer look. Let's walk through this together tonight and put some context to how, as a community, we navigated a year of uncertainty brought on by an unforeseen public health menace of historic proportions that impacted our country like no other. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge our municipal elected officials, our city department heads, and the entire city staff. Today, stronger than ever, we continue to move our city forward with this team. With their ability to adapt to all of the changes that the pandemic necessitated, I couldn't be prouder of them as we progress towards better times. I thank you all from the bottom of my heart for your courage and loyalty to the city of Warsaw. It is also, however, with much regret that we must acknowledge the human toll that was part of the COVID-19 pandemic. I stand here tonight speaking on behalf of our entire community to remember those lives locally affected to COVID-19. As of yesterday, over 662,000 Hoosiers have been infected, accounting for 12,162 deaths. While in Kosciuszko County, 8,562 county residents battled the symptoms of COVID, resulting in 110 deaths. I'd ask that we all pause for a moment to remember those affected and their loved ones. Thank you. I also wish to acknowledge those on the front lines who have risked their own well-being, responding to and caring for those in need. Those physicians, nurses, healthcare workers, emergency responders, and the public health officials, all whom have navigated our community through this crisis, a crisis we hope to finally put in our rearview mirror in 2021. A sincere community thank you to all. Finally, I also want to acknowledge the sacrifices and hardships our local businesses and industries were forced to endure from the pandemic. The stay-at-home orders and social restrictions created an enormous amount of pressure on them to operate responsibly, to protect their customers and employees. I know the battle isn't over for them. Federal, state, and local stimulus programs have and will continue to help, but we all must be mindful of the significant negative impacts on our businesses. Lost revenue from disruption of service to customers, supply chain interruptions, and workforce concerns have crippled, and in some cases, dealt a fatal blow to some of our long-standing business partners. As consumers, please support our merchants and businesses any way you can on the road back. I stood in front of you last year, anxious to share our community successes and look ahead to 2020. Things changed rapidly, forcing all of us to change priorities, focusing on the health and safety of our community. From day one, our team relied on the importance of public health data and information to guide our local decision-making. Quite often, the information was changing by the day as officials tried to keep up with the emerging reality of what was actually happening. COVID-19 was new to the planet. There was no handbook to consult. Real-time, emerging public health data was and still is the critical element to guide our response. Now, locally, we relied on the Indiana State Department of Health-led Governor's COVID response team. The public health information and critical resources they provided to our county health department was invaluable. Indiana and Kosciuszko County got it right. Were we perfect? Of course not. Nobody was. But I believe our public health officials, who had a monumental, unenviable task, kept their focus, and as a result, the community benefited. Unfortunately, public health statistics couldn't measure the impact COVID had on our behavior and mental well-being. COVID challenged us all and continues to do so in our everyday lives. It arrived with great uncertainty. It created anxiety, not only for the unknown fear of the health risks, but the negative impacts from the stay-at-home restrictions. As a means to address the uncertainty, keeping our community informed became a key priority of the city. With the pandemic response being so fluid and literally changing by the day, if not by the hour, the need for effective, timely communication and the ability to answer questions was evident. In response, the City of Warsaw teamed with the County Health Department and County Commissioners to stream a weekly press conference from City Hall. From the very beginning of the pandemic, our community partners immediately began to reach out to those in need. Our county school systems ramped up their meal programs to address the food insecurity COVID was creating. Our charitable foundations and nonprofit organizations responded with financial resources to assist with rent and utility payments. Churches and other organizations worked overtime to address the needs of those who were most susceptible to the emotional toll the pandemic was taking. Community action groups sewed masks and gowns. They went door to door with bilingual COVID testing and public health information to those communities impacted disproportionately by the virus. How gratifying it was to see our neighbors in action. Testing became an early challenge. Partnering with the county, we were able to utilize CARES Act stimulus dollars to support community testing. With increasing demand, we established a successful drive-through clinic at Central Park. To meet community needs for more permanent testing sites, the state provided funds and materials to establish such. Through a partnership with the Bowen Center, the city and county helped fund a drive-through site at the fairgrounds. Having made it through a second, more significant wave of case counts, we stand at the threshold of the final solution: vaccination. The state of Indiana has very purposefully prioritized its most susceptible residents for the early stages of the vaccination rollout. Vaccinations are safe and they work. Make sure you and your loved ones, as soon as you are eligible, get registered and get both shots. When your time to get the shots comes available, please consider that vaccination represents the best way out of this dreadful pandemic. Also, call the bilingual COVID vaccination registration hotline if you have language or technology challenges. They will get you registered. And that number is 574-347-4256. 574-347-4256. How did the pandemic affect the business of the city in 2020? While it was anything but business as usual, there was still plenty of business. Administrative demands were significantly impacted and for the most part required more attention, not less. Some local projects slowed down, but some didn't. At each department, delivery of services, whether essential or not, had to adjust. Let's take a look at how the city fared in 2020. We started the year by bringing our elected officials and department heads together for a strategic planning session. The purpose was to revisit, revise, and prioritize our goals and objectives for the next 4 years. Now, the results demonstrated a continued focus on infrastructure improvement, quality of life, and community and economic development in our city. 2 new goals, not prioritized in 2016, included the development of a comprehensive housing strategy and confirmation of the need for an operational review to improve city efficiencies. The new strategic plan served as that first step for a review of our department operations. With the significant growth of the past decade, the efficiency of systems and procedures were in need of reevaluation. A thorough evaluation of process and interviews resulted in a priority list of 10 objectives designed to improve service, efficiency, communication, and technology for the benefit of our community. Among the top priorities was to realign the Building and Plan Department by adding a Department of Community and Economic Development. Significant growth has created the need to separate those roles, including housing, quality of life, and transportation initiatives, to focus on the growth needs of the community. Previous city planner Jeremy Skinner was named the Community and Economic Development Director for the city. Another high priority was to formalize the IT governance within the city and develop a coordinated IT strategy to meet the communication and technology needs of our department. An online permitting process from Building and Plan Department is expected to be the first fruits of that effort and should be available in late spring. The 2020 census was well underway when the pandemic hit in March and significantly impacted the process. The delays have pushed back the release of apportionment count until April 30th, while redistricting counts have been delayed until July 30th. Despite the restrictions and delays, the census response rate was recently reported at 99.98% participation. The latest population estimate from July 2019 for the city was 15,150 residents, a 10.6% increase since the 2010 census. We anticipate when released, the 2020 census will reveal continued steady population growth for the city of Warsaw. Also well underway before the pandemic hit was a study to evaluate the local residential housing market. Funded by the City of Warsaw, Kosciuszko County Government, and the Kosciuszko County Community Foundation, the data was released last summer and reinforced the widely held belief that our city has significant unmet housing needs. Desirable housing to meet the needs of workforce and seniors is a high priority focus of a local initiative to meet this challenge. Zimmer Biomet, in conjunction with the Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority and the Kosciuszko County Community Foundation with the support of a Lilly grant, have established a loan reserve fund to stimulate public-private housing projects that focus on affordable and market-rate workforce housing. Because of this work, Warsaw and all of our Kosciuszko County communities are in a better position to develop successful solutions for our housing needs. Our housing strategy is well underway. I'm sure you all have noticed construction on East Center Street of 802 Center Senior Apartments, a 72-unit affordable senior living complex slated to be completed later this year. A second project, Gateway Grove, is a planned unit development of 62 market-rate owner-occupied single-family dwellings and is in the early stages of development on the site of the former Madison School. Construction should begin this summer. Further residential construction will begin this spring on the North Buffalo Street. 3 townhouses have been built with a 7-unit, 2-story Muse slated to construct this spring as well. Also on North Buffalo, a 4-story multi-use apartment building is also scheduled to begin later this year. The city is currently working to finalize control of the former Owens grocery store site on West Market Street for residential development. The city intends to partner with a private developer to create a mix of rental housing with retail space and an option for a parking garage. Planning is underway to finalize a project design that fits the location. The loss of the Marsh grocery store chain and Owens on Market Street has created a noticeable void of a centrally located grocery. The city is continuing to seek grocery opportunities, both supermarket and non-traditional neighborhood concepts, to meet that void as we move ahead with downtown projects. 2020 also saw continued interest in economic development opportunities for the city. Our new Community and Economic Development Director for the city has kept very busy. Our Warsaw Technology Park was recently recertified by the Indiana Economic Development Corporation to attract skilled manufacturing. Local strategy calls for the development of expandable shell buildings and shovel-ready sites for ground-up development. The Warsaw Redevelopment Corporation has incentivized the construction of 2 shell buildings, the first occupied by Patrick Industries in 2018. The second is a 60,000 square foot facility at the corner of Polk Drive and Sylvia's Crossing. Warsaw is fortunate to have a broad palette of orthopedic industry resources in our community. Those resources become a significant asset when similar industry prospects look to relocate here. A Warsaw address improves their chances of success. In addition, local businesses that have always called Warsaw home tend to grow and expand here for the same reason. Maintaining their commitment to our community becomes a part of the synergy. 2020 saw several examples of this. Razor Medical Instruments announced less than 2 weeks ago that it has recently decided to call Warsaw home. Relocating from New Hampshire, one of the early graduates of the OrthoWorks ExcelLinks Accelerator project, Razor will launch a high-tech single-use product line in the orthopedic instrument space. They have projected adding over 60 new jobs over the next 3 years. This past year, Extremity Solutions, a homegrown orthopedic company, announced their intention to expand into manufacturing by acquiring Lakeland Technologies. This created an opportunity to add a new tenant to the Warsaw Technology Park. With the availability of the second shell building, the city put together an incentive package based on the achievement of future measurable employment goals. Extremity committed to the city and agreed to occupy the second shell building in the tech park. They're projected to move into their new headquarters later this summer. Continuing this successful strategy, the city will be collaborating with West Hill Development on a concept for a third shell building for the park in the future. With the addition of city sewer and road improvements in the airport industrial park, this recently annexed area is already attracting new jobs and investment. For example, another successful local company and current tenant of that park, Instrumental Machine and Development, is in the process of finishing up a 26,000 square foot expansion on their current campus. Still another project this past year, the city partnered with Wishbone Medical, a rapidly expanding homegrown success story, to accommodate their space needs, moving their global headquarters to a larger facility on Capitol Drive in Warsaw. They anticipate hiring an additional 51 professional employees over the next 2 years to support new product development and oversee manufacturing. Finally, our development partners have been collaborating with local economic development officials and appear to be making significant progress to utilize 2 recently vacated buildings in the tech park, vacated by Winona PVD late in 2019. The 7-county US 30 Coalition has advocated to INDOT for more than a decade to engineer a freeway solution to improve safety and stimulate commerce on this significant transportation corridor that serves our city and region. As was announced by the US 30 Coalition last month, the governor has instructed INDOT to engage in a planning and environmental linkage study of the entire US 30 corridor to evaluate the option of converting US 30 to a freeway. Now, the first step by INDOT demonstrates the necessary commitment to initiate long overdue improvements to address our safety concerns. From 2011 through 2018, average daily traffic volumes have increased over 48%. Annual accident rates have increased 39% over the last decade. In 2019, there was a crash every 2.5 days on US 30 within the city limits. The city has formed a stakeholder group of locally elected officials from the city, county, and those towns along the route, as well as public safety and school officials. The group will reconvene later this month to evaluate and further discuss options available. In the fall of 2019, we began the public engagement process to look at the realignment options our community needs to consider for US 30 to develop into a freeway. Those public input sessions scheduled for 2020 had to be put on hold because of the gathering restrictions from the pandemic. We plan to resume those meetings hopefully this summer, if not in person, in some sort of virtual or hybrid format. These public sessions will help us further define the strengths and weaknesses of the proposed freeway options. Switching gears, let's talk about the financial health of our city. To stimulate growth, we must invest in our own community. Improvements in infrastructure, housing, and quality of place amenities has been the focus of our redevelopment commission and economic development partners for the past decade. By investing in our own community, we create meaningful opportunities for our partners. More specifically, our certified tech park, the Airport Industrial Park, Boggs Industrial Park, and anywhere else we can find buildings and space for all sizes of companies to build and grow. For the past 5 years, population and investment growth has demonstrated tangible, significant return on our investments. For example, this past year, the city's tax base grew $44 million, which was about 4% of the assessed value. Since 2016, our city tax base has grown over 34%, a total increase of $282 million. As mentioned earlier, we expect our 20 census figures to show an almost 11% growth from the 2010 census, pushing our population closer to 16,000. Fueled by the virtue of the city's commitment to attract purposeful partners and meaningful investment, that growth is no accident. For our taxpayers and utility rate payers, a broader tax base equals broader participation, which means lower taxes per household. Last year saw a significant drop in the city portion of the total tax rate to levels not seen since 2013. The new city rate saved taxpayers $100 for every $100,000 of home value. 2021 saw a continuation of the savings with just a slight increase from last year. Utility customers in our city also enjoy favorable rates by virtue of the economies of scale. Growth also expands the need for services. For example, 2021 saw the completion of the expansion and modernization of our at-capacity sewage treatment plant, stimulated by the demands of growth. Annexation increases the number of roads, lane miles to be maintained and improved. Traffic volume increase on our city and US 30 creates the need for more law enforcement. Utilizing an annual comprehensive financial plan as a budgeting tool has improved our ability to more accurately forecast proactively as we consider the demands from growth placed on the city. This compounded by stagnant revenue growth. Increases from property tax revenues are constrained by constitutional property tax caps, and as such, those revenues are unable to keep pace with the growth in inflation. Revenue constraints continue to be a consistent focus of the annual comprehensive financial plan recommendations. Our department heads prepare their budgets knowing they'll have to continue to make necessary cuts that could diminish their ability to meet the demands of our city. At last year's State of the City, I stood before you with the same concerns. Little did we know the pandemic would create an even greater burden on our revenues. The 2020 economic crisis is forecast to have an uncertain impact on local income tax revenue, which makes up 34% of our general fund revenues. Based upon 2020 actual allocations, there could be lost revenue up to $500,000 by some projections, and could also impact property tax revenue as well. Second, as travel dropped off due to the pandemic last year, our road funding, supported by gas tax revenues, took an immediate $75,000 direct hit. We will continue to look for ways to leverage our use of taxpayer funds and improve efficiencies. One of the goals stated in last year's State of the City was to convene a committee of the Common Council to make recommendations to help offset the costs to provide curbside waste to our residents. We provide exceptional, cost-effective services to our homeowners, including automated trash and recycling services, yard waste removal, and large item pickup services. But there is a continually rising cost to provide those services. We will be studying route efficiencies, new equipment, and potentially a modest trash fee to offset a portion of this expenses related to this critical service. As we enter into 2021, I can say proudly that we balanced our budget, we kept our low city tax rate steady, we met our self-imposed cash reserve requirements, and maintained low debt limits. Growth has benefited us all, but our revenue concerns need to be addressed. Let's take a look at the accomplishments at our city department level. Despite a significant reduction in activity in 2020 as many companies instituted pandemic travel restrictions, Nick King and his staff at the airport directed a comprehensive rehabilitation of the north-south runway this past summer. Much time and effort was also spent preparing for the multi-million-dollar power line lowering project set to begin in 2021. Hal Hagee and the staff at Oakwood Cemetery were able to maintain the dignity of graveside services last year, adapting to the challenges dictated by the COVID distancing requirements. The construction of a new road on the east side of the cemetery will create an additional 1,100 new spaces for burial use. Despite issuing fewer permits, building and plan saw $44.2 million, a 15% increase in residential and commercial construction last year. Improved code enforcement continues to be a focus of building and plan. The staff was also busy overseeing the North Buffalo Street Plaza, Ride Walk initiatives, the Airport Industrial Sewer Project, new senior housing project, the Lincoln School Neighborhood Sidewalk Project, the Anchorage Road Reconstruction Project, and work to remediate several abandoned industrial sites. New Building and Plan Director Justin Taylor will transition this year into his role as city planner with a very full agenda. Lynn Christensen and her staff in the clerk treasurer's office had the difficult task of reacting and adapting to fiscal and procedural challenges that were occurring almost daily as the pandemic hit its peak in the spring. Like most of our departments, they utilized split shifts and prescribed restrictions and protocols to minimize exposure and spread. The Warsaw Wayne Township Fire Territory continued to see significant response call volumes, 72% being first response emergency services, while just over 4% were for fires. Our community ISO rating improved to a Class 2, which will directly benefit property owners by lowering fire insurance premiums. As an advanced non-transport emergency medical service, the Fire Territory is working to improve our response for emergency mental health calls for service. This year, I will be asking the Fire Territory for their final recommendations on this community mental health initiative. A new 7th tornado siren was placed on Bell Drive to serve the northern portion of the city. Human Resources Director Jennifer Whitaker has managed to meet the needs of our employees amid the rapidly changing federal regulations that emerged to manage COVID health issues, contact tracing requirements, and mandated employee benefits. The mayor's office was also very busy managing the local impact of the pandemic. Effectively communicating to our community became our #1 priority. With an established system of video live streaming in place, we were able to deliver weekly press conferences to significant audiences on the city website and Facebook page. Public health information such as testing, school reopening, improving access to care for our hardest hit communities, and trying to manage the behavioral and mental health needs of our community were the messages, among others. And on one particular Wednesday in July, we reached almost 10,000 viewers. We also managed our allocation of the Federal CARES Act funding. We utilized dollars for community testing, bilingual health education, equipment to improve online interactive communication, PPE, emergency funds for several non-for-profit organizations, and a vaccine registration hotline to assist those with technology and language barriers. Remember, 574-347-4256. The council also funded a zero-interest loan fund to assist Warsaw small businesses. Parks and Recreation saw many of their scheduled activities, programs, and rentals diminished or eliminated from COVID restrictions. Larry Plummer and his staff were able to pivot to online recreation activities while keeping outdoor facilities safe and as accessible as possible. Significant 2020 accomplishments include major improvements to Kerr Park, opening of the new outdoor Lucerne Park Amphitheater, and as a very fitting punctuation to a tumultuous year, the annual Christmas display at Central Park, providing a beautiful gift for so many families to enjoy as the holidays were anything but normal. Finally, plans for a new combined relocated park offices and maintenance building located at the corner of Indiana and Fort Wayne Streets are in the final stages. Construction is expected to begin sometime in the summer of this year. Warsaw Police Department collaborated with all local law enforcement agencies early on in the pandemic to adopt uniform law enforcement COVID-19 procedures. They continued to collaborate with Net 43 to battle substance abuse in our county and partnered with Warsaw Community Schools for a renewal agreement for DARE and school resource officers. Evaluating use of force and other policies became a priority in 2020 by WPD. Precipitated by nationwide instances of police abuse of power brought to a head by the killing of George Floyd. Also impacted by the national conversation, attracting qualified candidates to replace retirements and resignations has proven to be quite a challenge. All law enforcement agencies find themselves competing for a smaller pool of qualified applicants. That shortage is accentuated locally by growth, annexation, and the increased traffic concerns on US 30. Facing a shortage of several sworn officers, I will be conferring with the Common Council to immediately address the problem. Led by new Superintendent Dustin Dillon, the street department continued to meet the demands for services that were for the most part independent of COVID impact. Multiple in-house paving projects saved the city almost $150,000 in the first year of use with new equipment. The Lincoln and Johnson Street curb and sidewalk reconstruction was substantially completed in 2020. This year, the street superintendent will be evaluating preliminary needs for expansion and replacement of the street maintenance building facility. The current building has significant structural problems, does not offer enough space to house expensive street vehicles and equipment that have expanded with the demands of a growing city. Our wastewater utility substantially completed the $30 million expansion at the end of last summer, increasing capacity by 50% and designed to meet the needs of our community for the next 20 years. 2021 will continue to focus on sewer line rehabilitation. The stormwater utility continues to work on projects for Pike Lake shoreline restoration, Kelly Park Pond, McKinley Street, and Argonne Road projects. Our community stood and continues to stand tall in the face of an evolving public health crisis of unprecedented magnitude. We are guided by science as we unravel the still unknown full impact of COVID-19. We must continue to stay vigilant and let reliable public health information guide us to the finish line, one that is in sight if we can effectively vaccinate our way out of this. And I'm very confident of that. But lingering issues will continue. Post-COVID challenges will impact our community for years to come. The future of our local businesses, the way we communicate, gather, and socialize, how and where we purchase retail goods, how we access health care, and so on. In 2020, our nation was also rocked by a series of law enforcement mistakes that dramatically signaled the need for meaningful social equity change in our country. Minority communities across the nation have been disproportionately marginalized, the result of long-standing bias. Removing those barriers takes time. Conversations are necessary to improve commitment for meaningful change that fosters social equity in our community. The city is having those conversations to develop and better understand implicit bias. Warsaw Police Department is in the process of independently reviewing and rewriting policies to assure they meet state and national standards and also conform to best practices. Those will be submitted to the Board of Works later this spring for their approval. The City of Warsaw has always maintained its hiring practices and employment policies to adhere to equal employment opportunity standards. In 2020, we reviewed those policies and rewrote certain sections to articulate more distinctly those policies. Welcoming all who come into our community is a true reflection of what we aspire to be as a community. A word of encouragement to a stranger strengthens the case for growth and opportunity. A comment taken the other way is exponentially more hurtful. Simply acknowledging that everyone has unique qualities and perspectives gives our community strength and creates opportunity for all, and allows us to thrive even more as a welcoming community. I thank you for your time tonight. Stay safe, and may God bless you always as we move this great community forward. Thank you. All right, thank you all. We'll take just a short break and we'll get to the business of the city here in just a few minutes. Is John is here? Okay.
I know.
Thanks, Bummy. Appreciate it.
John, you ask. John, you got your meeting.
All right. I don't think we have too much on the agenda tonight. Thank you for coming, Mother. Bye, Jilly. All right. So we're on item 5, which would be the approval of the minutes from February 16th. Those minutes have been sent to you on board pack and are there for your approval.
I move to approve.
Motion made by Jerry. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right. Cindy, second. Any further discussion? All right. We'll do a roll call vote. Mike Klondaris?
Yes.
Thank you, Mike. Diane Quantz?
Aye.
Jerry Frush?
Yes.
Josh Finch?
Aye.
Cindy Dobbins?
Aye.
Jack Wilhite?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Again, welcome to all our visitors tonight. Appreciate it. Lynn, no reports, oral or written communication? I think we just had the oral
I think you
communication.
did, yeah.
All right.
The report was a double whammy.
So let's move into unfinished business. Our Assistant City Planner, Johnny Lasco's here, and I know he's had some discussion with some of the council members about the street light at 200 South and Falcon Drive. So, Johnny, you want to go ahead and take it over here?
Yeah, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. So I'm presenting for your approval the request for the streetlight located at the intersection of 200 South Falcon Drive. There was some unfinished discussion about it last time. As a reminder, the aim of this light is to improve visibility and wayfinding along the corridor. I've assembled answers to the questions that were posed at the previous council meeting. I was unable to attend. I addressed sort of the 4 main questions. Firstly, why not place the light on the northwest side to better improve wayfinding? This is because the pole already located on the northeast side can be more cost effectively fitted with a light. Placing one on the northwest side would require an additional pole as well as electrical work. So this is just a more cost efficient method of lighting the area. Question number 2 that came up was who requested this, what prompted the city to look into this light. The original request was brought to the planning department by Kevin Kendrick, the president of the homeowners association for the neighborhood, and he brought it to the planning department on behalf of the HOA. The third question that came up was, are the owners of the nearest property aware? There's sort of a 2-story house near that corner. The owners, Matthew and Angela Majors, are aware of the plan and had no objections. And then the final concern was about anglings and lighting. This was sort of related to that house and the flood of the light. And concerns surrounding the properties have been considered, and NIPSCO engineers in the city work closely to create a placement that will minimize the impact on neighboring properties. And this is accomplished by angling the light towards the roadway and using a protective housing that prevents light from flooding neighboring properties. I hope that addresses your questions. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Johnny. And I'll just open it up to the council. I know Mike's on, as well as 5 of our council members. I think I mentioned that Councilman Gross is absent tonight, so he would be the only one. Are there any thoughts or concerns, or is there a motion to approve the addition of the street light?
If I may, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I think a lot of those questions probably came from me. And Johnny and I had a nice discussion. I also reached out to the president of the Homeowners Association, Kevin, and we had an at-length conversation. I addressed my questions to him. He was very forthcoming, very reassuring, and explained to me that their association did meet and they voted unanimously with the consent of the homeowner who would be most affected from the streetlight to go ahead and have that light put in. It was a unanimous vote. So I was satisfied, and I will go to mute in case anybody else has anything further to add. I am now supportive of putting the street lighting.
Any other comments?
This doesn't take a resolution or I mean, if we make the motion, I guess, how do we make it?
Just to approve the street light?
Just to approve the
Right.
proposal
Yep.
as outlined by the memo?
Yep.
I just want to say thanks, Mike and Johnny, for going the extra mile to make sure that this was a good thing for the people involved. I know that's in your district, Mike, and I appreciate you checking into it for all of us.
Yeah, that's our job, right? That's what we're supposed to do. So hearing no objections, I would be more than happy to make a motion that we pass this.
So motion's been made by Councilman Quantz Clondaris, to add the street light in intersection of 200 South and Falcon Drive. Is there a second?
I'll just go ahead and second it then.
All right. Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Oh, we gotta go.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, Mike? Mike Clondaris?
Yes.
All right, Diane?
Aye.
Jerry Frush?
Aye.
Josh Finch?
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
If I may add something, Mayor, Johnny has not been with the city very long, and it was a real pleasure to work with him, and I really appreciate his time and the effort that he put into this, and I know he's leaving, and I really hate to see him go. But thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Johnny, for tying up the loose ends on this. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you all. Have a good night.
All right. Let's move on to new business, which would be the approval of the conflict of, or acknowledgement of the conflict of interest statements from Dustin Dillon, James Hastings, and Artemis Shambaugh. Those have been presented to you, and I would ask for your acknowledgement of those.
I'll make a motion, we acknowledge all three.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Cindy. Diane, you got the nod on this one. All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Mike Clondaris?
Yes.
All right.
Aye.
Diane, good. Jerry?
Yes.
Josh?
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
And Jack?
Aye.
All right, great. Motion passes 6-0. All right, any other matters come before the council? All right,
Well, from my vantage point in Michigan, Mary did a terrific job. Thank you.
well, thanks, Mike. I just wanted to say, we've obviously gotten through a very difficult year, but certainly there's so much to continue on as we pull out of this, and all of the projects that are bubbling up. We're going to stay busy, that's for sure. And I think that's what my address said tonight. Thanks for what we did. Thanks for the perseverance and making sure that we were all doing the right thing. But more important, I don't want to look back. I just want to keep looking ahead. So thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
Well,
All right. Anyone else have any comments or motion to adjourn?
I would move that we adjourn.
All right. Is there a second?
Well,
All right. All right. We stand adjourned. Thank you. Did you push the button?
It's so tight, it doesn't, too.
My wife's got
Got it, Cindy? Is that it?
a charger. Goes
Got it.
on to her.
Okay.